Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms. Here's your host, Bryce Henson.
Welcome back, friends, to episode number 1 of the Fitness CEO Podcast. My name is Bryce Henson. I am the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp, and I'm your main host here. And while this is episode 1, realistically speaking, this is a continuation, a rebranding of the Fitness Franchise Podcast, which we shot nearly 100 episodes and had an incredible experience, amazing feedback. But we're rebranding, and I'm going to showcase why that is. So this episode is really just to go through the why, the what, the frequency, the who, and really the deep origin story, if you will. So why are we rebranding? Well, we got amazing feedback over the last nearly 2 years of running episodes. But one of the other feedback or common consistent feedback we received is it's great to interview guests, which bring a lot of value, but we also want more tangible takeaways from a business perspective, from an operations perspective, from a sales and marketing perspective, from a coaching perspective, from a finance and accounting perspective. So we heard your call and are going to be transitioning to the vast majority of the episodes teaching hard business topics around, or hard business, teachings around the topics that I just showcased. That's really the big, why of the rebranding. Why are we shooting the show, if you will, the continuation? And I'm going to tell my deep origin story here at the latter part of this episode to provide visibility and the passion, if you will, and ultimately showcase my origin story on becoming a CEO of an international fitness brand. But high level, ultimately, there is a big issue at play with our country and world's even health and fitness. In fact, here in the States, nearly 50% of our population is statistically obese. And yes, from an aesthetic perspective, that causes depression, just a lot of other complication from an emotional perspective. But from a medical perspective, holy smokes, the average medical cost for someone who's statistically obese, actually from a population perspective in the US, ranges anywhere from 147 billion with a B all the way to 210 billion with a B, depending on the study. But regardless, that's an astronomical number. In addition, women who are statistically obese, and men for that matter, incur costs over 15 times the amount of someone who's not obese. That averages nearly $5,000 a year for women, more than someone who's not. Nearly $3,000 in extra medical costs for a man who's statistically obese compared to someone who's not. So the fact of the matter is the problem is real. And ultimately what we've learned through COVID, and I hope we've learned, that your health and fitness is so game changing and mission critical. In fact, nearly 80% of the people that were severely affected by COVID, whether it be hospitalization or unfortunately suffered death, were statistically obese. So our big mission is to get our health and our fitness of our country and of our world on a way better trajectory, because right now it is suffering. So there's a big need for health, fitness, mindset coaching, and really this particular podcast is going to continue to fill that need, just with a little different format. In terms of the frequency and the format, we're going to continue shooting one episode a week. Wednesday is our target, and subject to change, but that system and that sequence works really well, and the feedback's really been strong. I will continue to be your lead host, and actually vast majority of the episodes, you're stuck with me. I'm going to be here teaching content about all the topics that I discussed and more to give you hard-hitting, tangible takeaways. That way you can go ahead and have more confidence to launch and ultimately grow your own fitness business. My partner in crime, my co-host, and the founder of Fit Body Bootcamp, Bedros Keuilian, B for short, is also going to be on the episode where him and I are going to riff one episode per month. So that's exciting for us to continue that journey, be able to unpeel the onion for both of us, if you will. And there's also some variety there, which is nice. And then ultimately, while that's not going to be the focus, there's going to be times that I invite other CEOs, whether in the fitness industry or other CEOs for that matter, onto the show, pick their brains about certain very specific topics that you can take away and you grow your business. So from a frequency perspective, from a format perspective, that's what that looks like. With time, with evolution, with feedback, all subject to change, but that's what we're continuing and releasing with the vision for the Fitness CEO Podcast. And the who. Who is this podcast for? Well, people who are passionate about fitness, passionate about people, and passionate about business. I mean, really that does a great job of identifying who we're looking for. In addition, someone who's growth mindset, who wants more out of life. This is really who this podcast is geared for. And the person who's coachable. At the end of the day, fitness and business, it's simple. It's not easy. Shooting this content for someone who's coachable, and that way they can take action against what they've learned and really grow their business. And yes, we are looking to recruit more incredible Fit Body Bootcamp owners. So that's another objective for the show. But whether you end up opening a Fit Body Bootcamp or not, or can just gain value from this in your own fitness business or launch another fitness business. We're here to serve. And of course, we hope to attract more partners like you within our brand. But our big mission more than that is, again, to get really the health and fitness of not only our country, but our world back on track. And our company mission here at Fit Body Bootcamp is to inspire fitness and change lives every day. That's what we're going to do throughout the show, the Fitness CEO podcast. So that all said, that's the high level overview of the adjustments and I guess the rebranding. The last point, I really want to showcase my origin story and really how I climbed up the ranks from this unfit guy who was overweight, very little muscle on his body, 20 pounds of fat, very little muscle frame, all the way to a fitness coach and ultimately a CEO of a major international fitness franchise, and still humbled at that opportunity to this day. The origin story starts in the Midwest, and originally I'm from the state of Michigan. Amazing place, salt of the earth people, but not the fitness capital of the world. And there I was spending my latter part of my childhood, my teenage years, my early adult life in Michigan, and I had a great time there. But fitness wasn't ingrained in part of my lifestyle. Yes, I was athletic, but especially the last 4 years of school, I stayed out of touch of fitness. Fast food was a staple of my diet, primarily for two reasons. Number one, for first world standards, my family came from very humble beginnings, so we used to run out of money before we used to run out of month, and fast food was definitely more the cheaper option. And then number two, again, the culture wasn't necessarily fully fitness focused. But there I was, 21 years old, graduated from Michigan State. I got an internship in Los Angeles, California, which turned into a full-time job right after I graduated. And there I was, basically arriving in LA, the palm trees, the blue skies, the beaches, all that Southern California had to offer. But ultimately, LA can also, or is also, I should say, the plastic capital of the world. So I was young, I was 3,000 miles from home, I was homesick, I didn't have the energy, the vibrancy that I certainly do today. Really, I just didn't have fitness in my life. And ultimately, I lived that way for probably the first 2 years in Southern California. I had more dark days than good. And that was until a dear friend of mine to this day named Adam moved to Southern California. We decided to live together. And a little bit about Adam, he was my first fitness mentor. He had the six-pack abs, the glistening muscles, the confidence, the energy, enthusiasm. All the girls loved him, and I certainly looked up to that. So after living together, embarrassingly to say, it took me a couple months to finally muster up enough courage to say, Adam, can you show me a little bit about this fitness game? And he turned to me, he's like, Bryce, I thought you'd never ask me. And really what he did is he got me to commit to at least 12 weeks because he said, Bryce, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. And you know how many guys in college asked me, how to lift weights and how to get fit, and how many actually stuck with it? Virtually zero. I want to make sure that you're committed, that you'll lift what I want you to lift, you'll eat what I want you to eat. And after the 12 weeks, if it's not for you, then hey, off you go. Those 12 weeks showed me a better, different way. And I really trained with Adam for the better part of 2 years, but really 6 months hyper focus. And what Adam did, he introduced me to weightlifting. He introduced me to circuit training. He introduced me to clean eating, but most importantly, coaching and accountability. Because I would love to look you in the eye and say, I would have done it by myself, but I certainly can't say that. And I think going through that transformation, which I did, I ended up losing about 20 pounds of body fat, putting 20 pounds of lean muscle on my body, completely transformed my physique. But if you're watching the show right now, you know that fitness does way more than just change someone's physique. It changed someone's life, and it did that for me. And I think that's why I have so much energy, enthusiasm, and passion on the fitness industry. And I shouldn't say I think, I know, because it did that for me. And when I saw the Fit Body Bootcamp model a couple years later, which I'll explain here in a second, I knew that, hey, this is the exact same thing that helped me in the Fit Body Bootcamp program. So it made a ton of sense in terms of the fit, in terms of the circuit training, the nutrition coaching, and the coaching and accountability. So ultimately, after going through that transformation, the fire had been lit, my eyes were open, and I was excited to live a new, healthy, and fit lifestyle, being a fit guy. It wasn't, though, until a couple years later, I was at a gym and someone walked up to me. They introduced themselves to me and said, hey, I've been watching you lifting weights, and I see the results that you have. Can you teach me a little bit about this? And this light bulb popped on, and I thought to myself, I could be the same person that Adam was for me. At that point in time, I did the next logical thing to do. I enrolled myself as a certified personal trainer through National Academy of Sports Medicine, and actually took the coursework. It took a better part of a year for me to complete. Ultimately, when I did, I started training some clients on the nights and weekends, and I updated my Facebook profile to certified personal trainer. And guess what? I started receiving ads from this gentleman named Bedros Keuilian, the founder of Fit Body. As it turns out, a dear friend of mine, a business partner, the co-host of this show, started following along to his teachings about how to grow a fitness business, how to launch a fitness business, how to get clients better results. So I started paying attention in this little thing called Fit Body Bootcamp, which is a licensee program at the time, and this is about 2010, 2011, was transforming into a franchise system. I did my diligence. I put in an express or administers an application. I did all the diligence I possibly could. I think I talked to the dozen owners in the brand at that time. I decided, you know what, this is actually it. I'm going to invest my life savings on this dream because fitness impacted me on such a major way. I want to give that gift of fitness back. Put in all my life savings to this, and ultimately a few months later, I opened the doors to my first fitness location, Yorba Linda Fit Body Boot Camp, in the fall of 2012. Yorba Linda is a little city next to Disneyland, and that's kind of put us on the map. And really, that was how my fitness journey started from a fitness business perspective. From 2012 to 2018, ultimately grew incredibly, and certainly had trials and tribulations and the battle scars of all entrepreneurs, because let's face it, it's way harder than I thought going in, but at the same token, way more fulfilling, both from a financial perspective, from a fulfillment perspective. Got through those tough days to the very begin with, and ultimately scaled to a handful of locations. I brought my family on board, my wife as a business partner, my mom down to do customer service, my sister Emma, who ran a location for a period of time, my brother Barrett, who opened his own location in Berkeley, Michigan, who now is the director of coaching and profitability at the time of this recording. So made it a family affair. And that was the trajectory for the first handful of years in this business. But then 2018 happened, and Fit Body Bootcamp was really growing in a very streamlined fashion, in a rocket ship site fashion, if you will. And Bedros knew that he wanted to have some insight, some vision and perspective, and really bring on a good leader that had perspective from an owner lens in our business, especially as our brand was exploding. And ultimately, I got the call and decided to work together, initially as the vice president of the Fit Body, and then ultimately a few years later, with Bedros's empire expanding, made me the offer to be the CEO of this brand. And really, that's my origin story to the fitness industry, from this guy in the Midwest that literally ate fast food, and Taco Bell specifically as a staple of his diet, that used to run out of money before he used to run out of month, from very humble beginnings from first world standards, and ultimately transform my fitness first and foremost, and then transformed and still transforming myself into a very strong and continued developed leader to lead the Fit Body Bootcamp brand and to be your CEO. So that is the origin story of how this came to be. And I share this with you because this is way more than just a job. This is a labor of love. Our mission, both with the Fitness CEO podcast and also Fit Body Bootcamp, our brand, is to inspire fitness, change lives every day, way more than a tagline. This is our life's work. And that's why we're so passionate here to continue to help the mission by adding value and serving you on a day-to-day basis. So really, this is technically episode 1 of Fitness CEO podcast, which is a continuation of the Fitness Franchise podcast, and want to take the time, I should say, to shoot a video to give you the high level, the why, the what, the who, the how, but ultimately the big burning passion underneath it, so that we have a good expectation of more to come. So that's all for today. Welcome to the show, and we'll see you in the next episode.